We are back, and we're going to be going over the good and the bad of Ohio State's blowout win over Rutgers yesterday. And this week, there actually was some bad that I would like to get into. However, we're going to start with the good because, the score was 49-10 and the starters are out by midway through the fourth quarter. So I think overall, the game went pretty well for Ohio State. So obviously the good being the score, and for the vast majority of the game, it looked exactly like you would expect it would. The offense, when it was clicking, was unstoppable. Mayan Williams, Trey Henderson was a late scratch. He was cut off with an injury late, very late, like right before the game started. And Mayan Williams literally took that opportunity and ran with it. He had a stellar performance, 5 touchdown rushes, which I believe is tied actually for the record for most in Ohio State history. He had an insane amount of yards. His average yards per carry was insane. It was a Heisman type performance. I'm not saying that he's all of a sudden a Heisman candidate, but if he strings together more performances like that, then he's definitely going to nudge his way into that conversation. But in one game in a vacuum, that was a Heisman type performance. Even if it is against Rutgers, that's still nice to see Mayan Williams do that. His transformation from last season to this season has been incredible to watch unfold as the season's gone on. But especially, you saw that week 1 against Notre Dame, that drive where he pretty much took the team on his back and drove him to the end zone on that touchdown run, waving Travion Henderson off the field for the not subbing on and stuff like that. So watching Mayan Williams this year has been a blast. No Rutgers game was no different, and in fact, it was probably his most his breakout performance for the season so far. And it's still early. There's still time for him to have dominant performances against even better competition. Maybe so if he does that against a higher caliber opponent than Rutgers, then he'll get even more attention than he's already getting from the Ohio State fan base anyway. And the defense, for the entire game, it did its job. The only points Rutgers was able to get was off of turnovers, so can't really blame the defense for succumbing some points there. But for the rest of the game, they held Rutgers to nothing. If it wasn't off of a turnover, Rutgers wasn't moving the ball at all. So again, most of the game played out exactly like you would think it was, but that leads me to the bad, which were these weird isolated incidents of some sloppiness, some plays that if you weren't playing a team like Rutgers, you might not be able to get away with it. Starts like when they had these sequences at the start of each half when momentum is kind of neutral. In the first half, there was the Becca Imuka muffed punt. Emeka Ibuka, the muffed punt that he had that led to a touchdown that led to Rutgers getting a 7-0 lead, and the interception that was thrown at the beginning of the second half. Better teams are going to take advantage of those opportunities, like Michigan State, even though they're maybe not at the height of their powers this year. It's going to be the first Ohio State road game. If you muff a punt and that leads to a touchdown on the first drive, that's going to get that crowd going nuts. And while it's not a hole that Ohio State can't dig itself out of, I would rather just watch them not dig that hole in the first place. Again, these things happened against Rutgers, so it's not a big deal. But you have to, with games like Rutgers, you just kind of have to extrapolate, because otherwise these games are kind of pointless against teams like Rutgers and Toledo or whatever. Doing that against a team like Michigan State, and if you don't think like that, then maybe like Penn State or Michigan, and even if you're not worried about any Big Ten opponents, stuff like that against teams like Alabama, like Georgia, eventually one of the better teams that you play are going to take advantage of stuff like that. There was also a really embarrassing sequence where it took Ohio State, I think, 7 goal-to-go tries to score on Rutgers, which you never want to see. It's always frustrating if it takes 7 tries to score against any team. But when it's Rutgers, it's just kind of like, come on, like they could have done this a while ago. But besides that, C.J. Stroud having a relatively quiet performance. Again, that might just be the game plan kind of shifting to a very, very run-heavy offense, especially with the day Mayan Williams was having. But CJ Stroud was fine besides for that one interception. It's not like he played bad. It's just that he wasn't really – he didn't stand out as much, but he still had 2 touchdowns on the day. So it's not like he was bad. It's just that he kind of had a really quiet performance compared to what we usually see. And something that I did mention earlier on that with Trey Henderson, but also Jackson Smith and Jigba, the injuries to some key guys might start to add up eventually. It hasn't so far because Ohio State's offense has been able to find players to step up, like Emeka Egbuka, like Mayan Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Julian Fleming getting in the lineup and being a consistent contributor is definitely going to help. But again, when you have some isolated instances against a team like Rutgers and you try to extrapolate that, what if they did this against Penn State or maybe Alabama or the Big Ten championship game, especially again in those situations at the start of each half where momentum is kind of up for the grabs and you give the other team that momentum, that can be a little scary if that's what you're going to do. But besides that, it was pretty much just another ho-hum Rutgers game. Maybe next week we'll bring some more intrigue with Michigan State. But again, with Rutgers, it's pretty much just blow them out, which they did. And I did go pretty nitpicky on some of the bad sequences because, again, that's what you have to do. You have to say, like this, you can't struggle against Rutgers because if you do this against teams that are much better than Rutgers, and they're going to take advantage and they're going to make you pay for it eventually. So thank you all for watching. If you made it this far in the video, please feel free to leave a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed it and you'd like to see more like it. Let me know what you think about this game and the Ohio State season in the future down in the comments below. Thank you all again for watching, and I will see you at the next one.